Do you like goals? Because if you do, tonight was the night for you. This was kind of a crazy overall night, especially in the Central and in the North. There were a lot of goals being scored. And we start off with a game that didn't have a lot of goals being scored. So we're going to start off with the Islanders and Buffalo. Now, I'm going to say straight out, Buffalo, the time off showed for them. It did. Not to take anything away from the Islanders, but that time off definitely showed. The shots were 3-2 for the Sabres 5 minutes into this game. Tight checking start for both. Both teams looked fresh, and we know those Buffalo jerseys are fantastic. Varlamov looks good. And then 6 minutes without a whistle, so some good continuous play. And you know, it felt like an Islanders game at this point, but Buffalo was holding their own. The Sabres were really honestly the better team through the first, I'll say, 15 minutes. And then it happened. Leave from Bailey and Barzal at 16:37, and then not long after that, Jean-Gabriel Pageau continues his hot streak with a goal from Leddy and Mayfield at 18:21. So, we go to the second period. Buffalo gets power play. On the power play, it's Olofsson with the first goal for Buffalo in weeks from Dahlin and Hall at 1 minute and 40 seconds. So Dahlin gets a helper. That's important. We got to see him start picking up points. But the shots were 4-2 for the Islanders at 5 minutes. And the longer this game went, the stronger the Islanders got. They end up getting themselves a power play as well, and they score on it. It's Nelson with the goal from Bailey and Wallstrom at 9 minutes and 49 seconds. And from there on, the rest of that period goes kind of it's an Islanders feeling game. And then with 29.7 seconds left in that second period, the Sabres get their second power play of the game. Keeping in mind they were 1-for-1. But we start the third period. That power play doesn't go anywhere. There's a post for Reinhart during that power play. And keep in mind that post, that's as close to the net as the Buffalo Sabres are going to get in the third period. There was a too many men call on the Sabres. Then we ended up with 8 seconds of 4-on-4 play. Reeder had a shorthanded chance. Eichel, he was trying his beast mode to get to the net, and he got taken down there. Islanders defense played very well. The shots were 6-0 for the Islanders with 9.5 minutes left. And Anson Carter was on the call of this, and he kept mentioning how Buffalo had no shots. And that was just very telling for how they just kind of ran out of gas. This was a very solid defensive game for the Islanders against a team that just didn't seem to have their wind in the third period. The Sabres, this is their first game in 15 days. With 4.5 minutes left, there were still no shots for the Buffalo Sabres. They couldn't get the goaltender out. So not only are they not getting shots, they're trying to pull the goalie, and they couldn't get him out. They did finally get him out with 1 minute and 40 seconds left. But pulling Ullmark, it didn't help. They were unable to get a shot in that third period. So Buffalo loses 3-1. They drop to 4-5-2. For the Islanders, they go to 7-4-3. And the Islanders now look like they're in pretty good shape. The shots in this one were 12-8 Buffalo in the first, 9 each in the second period, and then 12-0 Islanders in the third. Final shots 29-21 for the Islanders. Power plays, Islanders go 1-for-2. Buffalo goes 1-for-2 as well. Varlamov 20 saves on 21 shots. Ullmark 26 saves on 29 shots. So again, it's one game back, but they play again, and we'll see at the second half of the back-to-back how this is going to go between the Islanders and the Sabres. Because if you're a Sabres fan, you have to be at least somewhat concerned with what you saw out there tonight. Again, the no shots in the third, I think they just ran out of gas. This is a team that hadn't played in a while. Next up. Wow. I know that my views are going to end up being a lot lower than normal comparatively speaking with Steve Dangle. Steve Dangle's going to have quite the video tonight. This is about a year ago that the whole David Ayres thing happened. And wow. So I have to admit as well, I may have laughed pretty good at this. Now, did a team I cheer for lose later? Yes. Still doesn't make this less funny. Early on, total control for the Leafs. They're up in the shots 4-0, 3.5 minutes in. Hogberg stops Marner, but Matthews, he scores from Thornton and Marner. Cue up Hall and Oates at 6:32. It's 1-0. The Sens pressed around the halfway mark, and it was the first time they were able to generate shots, but then it goes the other way, and it's Boyd scoring from Spezza and Bogosian at 10 minutes and 29 seconds. Then Bogosian coughs up the puck at center ice. Stepan gets it to Stützle, and Batherson scores at 12:40. The mistake that Toronto made tonight was being lazy. And I don't think there's any one player that you can point at Tavares if you want. He makes a lot of money. You can point at maybe Marner or Matthews, whoever you want to because of the money they make. But in the end, this was just a game where they let it get away from them. The Sens pressed with 3.5 minutes left, but it's 2-1 Toronto after 1. And the shots would tell you Toronto controlled much of the period, and that would be accurate. Second period, Engvall scores from Kerfoot and Brody at 1 minute and 49 seconds. Now, the shots did favor Ottawa in the first 5 minutes. But every time Toronto got a chance, it seemed to go in the net. Muzzin then had a fight with Brady Tkachuk. We end up with a power play for the Sens. It generates no shots. So Ottawa's power play, not a factor tonight. And then Joe Thornton scores at 9 minutes and 51 seconds. So it's 4-1 in favor of Toronto. They've got Thornton back in the lineup. He's got a goal and an assist. They're up 4-1. Hall & Oates is queued up all night. This is going to be great. You make my dreams, just echoing throughout the building. Anderson made some saves with 8 minutes left. The Sens were playing well, but they were down 4-1. But they were playing well, and that's something that's worthy of note here. The Leafs get a power play, then they have 50 seconds of 5-on-3, and during that 5-on-3, they score. So it's Matthews from Riley and Tavares. At 19:01 of the second period, it is 5-1 in favor of Toronto. At 19:01 of the second period, it is 5. This is the Senators. Okay, this is a team that came into today 3-12-1. This is a team that's been humiliated over and over and over again this year. And really at this point, all Toronto has to do is just close out a 4-goal lead in 20 minutes. What could possibly go wrong? Possibly go wrong. That's the first thing that's ever gone wrong. Simpsons fans know. So during that power play, lazy play by the Maple Leafs. It's the only way to put it. And Watson gets an assist on a shorthanded goal by Nick Paul with 19:51. Feels like a throwaway, right? It's 5-2. That's a throwaway goal. No big deal. No big deal. Third period, first minute. And not only that, but a breakaway for Zub. This is where, when the power play ends, you have to know where that guy's going to be coming out of the box. Whoops. Zub gets his first NHL goal from Connor Brown and Tierney at 41 seconds. Again, this is where you might want to call a timeout. He allowed a goal in the final 10 seconds of that second period. Then you allowed a goal in the first minute of the third period. Maybe call a timeout and say, hey guys, wake up. Come on. Let's get her going here. We've got this lead. This is Ottawa. We need to go out there and assert ourselves. This is the 2 points we really need. So the Senators get a power play, and it ends up being a 4-minute power play, which is problematic, right? But Hogberg robbed Mikheyev while they were shorthanded. So Ilya Mikheyev had the best chances during that power play. It's fine, right? That's good. But after that power play's done, Connor Brown scores from White and Shabbat at 5:52. Colin White continues the hot play for him. And for Brown, I think that's 3 goals in 4 games. But remember, it's Ottawa. You're up 5-4. You've still got 14 minutes left. You can kill this off, right? Puck to the body on Zaitsev, but he's okay. I think it hit him on the shoulder. Initially, it was thought that maybe it hit him in the face, but no, I think it hit him on the shoulder. He was pointing at his ear, too. It may have bounced up at him in the ear. So they pull the goalie with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left. Again, all you have to do if you're Toronto is get the puck, put it in the empty net, and you can end this nightmare. It's over. Just end it. Dadonov scores from Tkachuk and Norris at 17:59. That might be where I started having a good chuckle. Because up until then, I was kind of like, well, Ottawa's fought back. That's a good thing to have happen. Fight back. You know, you show some swagger and a little bit of fight back. That's great. We go to overtime. Yeah. And in overtime, on a breakaway, it's Dadonov at 2:19. And as soon as I saw him breaking in on the net, I went, holy crap, he's going to score. And then he did. And it is one of those results that just stands out to me. Toronto, has now lost 2 of the 3 times they've faced Ottawa, I believe, right? We've had this discussion on this channel, and I know fans of northern teams are very passionate about their Canadian market. The Leafs have problems, but so does the entire Northern Division. Defensively, every team in the Northern Division has their issues, depending on the game and the day, right? We're not going to see a Jennings Trophy go to a team in the North. But it's games like this that cause people to have concerns. And when I do videos like the one I did on which teams are really true contenders, people will look at this and go, it's probably not Toronto, not ahead of Tampa, not ahead of Boston, and not ahead of teams like Colorado, not ahead of Vegas. It's games like this that cause that to happen. Toronto drops to 11-3-2, so they've won 11 of 16 games. Ottawa goes to 4-12-1, and they're starting to look like maybe they can dig their way out of last place. They may very well be able to dig their way out of last place. And Toronto outshoots them 13-4 in the first period. Ottawa outshot them 15-11 in the second period. Toronto outshoots them 12-10 in the third. And then in the overtime, Toronto outshot them 3-2. The other glaring issue with this is I have been very vocal of my defense of Freddie Anderson. You can't have your goaltender dropping a 4-goal lead with a minute left in the second period. You can't have your goaltender allowing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals in the last, 13 shots he faced? You can't. So I'm not going to say which one he should have had, but that's where you need that big save. And tonight, Anderson did not have it. Power plays, Ottawa goes 0 for 3. Toronto goes 1 for 2. Högberg actually had a good game. 34 saves on 39 shots. And it, I know it doesn't show it, but he did. And once that 5th goal went in, Toronto had their share of shots. They had 15 shots after that. None of them went in. Anderson, 25 saves on 31 shots. They were going in the Toronto net. So again, if you want to say, Toronto's the best team in the North, okay. But like Mark Bergevin said today, he has no idea how good his team is. He has no idea because they haven't played a single team in the States. Very limited number of teams you're against. And when you're only against the same 6 teams, you really don't know how well you're playing, or in this case tonight, how sloppy you're playing. The Leafs gave up. They just stopped playing. They got that big lead and went, we got this. And that's a problem. So, there you go. All right, moving along. Columbus. The discussion was had the other day about Columbus and whether or not they're contenders. And I'm saying straight out, no. And I think a game like tonight shows they're not Stanley Cup contenders. The problem is, because of the overtime and shootout loss points, it makes their record look better than what it is. After tonight, they've won 7 out of 17 games. Carolina's won 10 out of 13. Carolina is the better team between the two. And tonight, Carolina made an argument that maybe they're going to end up being in the running for that first place with what happened with Tampa tonight, and we'll get to that. But Carolina's in the running here. So the interesting part is Atkinson scores on the first shift. The first shot, I'm pretty sure, from Laine and Roslovic at 26 seconds. So the Winnipeg connection shows up again, right? Gardner then generated a prime chance, but it's Boone Jenner that slaps one in off the goal line. And Foligno with the assist on that at 5:53. And what was interesting with that was that Dougie Hamilton blew his coverage on that one badly. So Dougie Hamilton, very good offensive defenseman, but it's defensive coverage like that ends up in highlight reels that would cause him to have some issues when it comes to Norris voting. But again, if we see Norris voting this year that has Seth Jones or Quinn Hughes in the top 3, we need to rethink the Norris Trophy. We absolutely, and I will admit that here and now, that those two score a lot of points. Defensively, there are issues, and Dougie Hamilton, I would say defensively, I'd put him ahead of those two, but that play there was problematic. Teravainen then had a goal, and it's called back as offside. But Teravainen, who admitted he struggled with COVID, he struggled with his energy level, and tonight was the first night that he's felt better since recovering. So while there are some that are asymptomatic and they're not a problem, for Teravainen, he was one of the guys who got hit with it, and it bothered him. Then there's a near miss for the Canes at 12 minutes, but not for long, because Sebastian Aho scores from Slavin and McGinn at 13:46. Columbus gets a power play. It's not successful, but Stenlund scores from Bjorkstrand and Delzato at 15:53 just after the power play had ended. So, it's 3-1 Columbus. Yeah, it's 3-1 Columbus. This was the night of the comeback, right? Korpisalo denied Aho with 1:50 left, but Jordan Stahl continues his amazing run from Fogle and Jake Bean. Jake Bean with his first assist tonight, his first of 2 on the night, at 18:32. So it's 3-2 after the first period. And it feels like that Stahl goal was really important. And we find out in the second it was, because the momentum's with them. McGinn scores from Teravainen and Aho at 1:29, and then 26 seconds later, they get the lead. Teravainen scores from McGinn and Gardner at 1:55. So that 3-1 lead at 15:53 of the first, by 1:55 of the second, they're now behind and chasing the game. The Canes were in control at 8 minutes. Power play then for the Blue Jackets. Korpisalo was guilty of a scary turnover in his own zone. It did not end up going in the net. Reimer was definitely bouncing back, so he allowed 2 goals on, I think it was 4 shots within the first 5 minutes. Well, 5 minutes, 53 seconds. And he really bounced back after that. Played very, very well. Late in the period, there's a Canes power play. And Niederreiter would score on it from Teravainen and Nachas at 19:13. So coming out of that second period, it's 5-3 in favor of Carolina. So now Columbus, a team that has struggled with goal scoring, they have to score 2 in the third, 3 in the game to get the win. Third period, Laine had a chance on a turnover, and Columbus was pressing early, so looked pretty good for them. Merzlikins then robbed McGinn, as Merzlikins would start the third period for Columbus. Columbus gets a power play. There was a shorthanded break for Aho. Elvis saved on that. That was a game saver. But Brock McGinn scores from Bean and Teravainen at 11:35. And then, because it's 6-3, you might as well challenge it. So they challenge the goal. The challenge fails. Becomes a power play. And it does not take long. On that power play, they're only their second of the game. Carolina puts it in. It's Trocheck from Svechnikov at 11:54. And that makes it 7-3. Carolina goes to 10-3. Columbus drops to 7-6-4. So Columbus takes that drop, and we'll get to some other results too, because now they find themselves outside of the top 4. We'll see what happens. Columbus 15-12. They outshot Carolina in the first. Both teams had 13 shots in the second. Columbus outshot them 12-9 in the third. Final shots 40-34 for Columbus. The Blue Jackets 0-3 on the power play. Carolina 2-2. That's a huge part of the story. Korpisalo 20 saves on 25 shots, and then Merzlikins saved 7 out of 9, and Reimer saved 37 out of 40 for Carolina as he bounced back big time. And now we come to this mess at the end of the board over here, Florida and Tampa. This is not a rousing, heartwarming moment for Curtis McElhinney. Remember a couple of years ago when Curtis McElhinney was like the story in Carolina, and and it was just fantastic, and he'd been Toronto's property, and then he goes to Carolina and becomes a star. This was not that Curtis McElhinney tonight. So the shots were 4-1 for the Panthers 5 minutes in. He looked sharp early. He denied Duclair, actually, but Duclair would get back at him. And then Stamkos scores from Chernak and Palat at 6:24 on the second shot by the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Florida's out shooting them. Tampa's ahead. And I thought, okay, so is this what we're going to see tonight? Is Drieger finally going to have that back-to-earth kind of game? Huberdeau, though, would tie it up from Hornqvist and Weegar at 7:56. The Panthers then get a power play. They don't score on it. There was a shot then that went off McElhinney's shoulder and went over almost. It was one of those ones that had just hit on a different angle. Could have gone in. But McElhinney, nice save there. Maroon then shot high and pegged McDonough with the puck. So if you're going to miss the net high, try to make sure your own defenseman's not roaming around behind the other team's net and you don't peg him in the head with the puck. Thankfully, it hit the helmet. So McDonough, as far as I know, wasn't a guy who missed any time, but make sure you're not hitting your own defenseman in the head with the puck. Then there's a power play for the Bolts, and that ends out the period. So we go to the second. There's 1 minute and 22 seconds of 4-on-4 play early. The Bolts get a short power play. They don't score on it. And then it's Tippett scoring what they said was his first goal since October of 2017, only the second of his career from Luostarinen, at 4:59. And then the penalty shot broke the app. So I'm watching the game, and the penalty shot is Frankie Vetrano's. And I'm like, all right, well, let's see if Frankie gets it. He gets it. Frankie was ice cold to start the season. He started heating up goal-wise. He scores that at 8:39. The app said it was Duclair, and I thought, well, that's interesting. I'm pretty sure that wasn't Duclair that got the goal, but all right. And then Duclair gets a goal at 10:23. That's his first of the season finally, so now it showed that Duclair had 2 goals, and from there on the app stopped showing assists. It was a while before it got caught up, so I had to get the accurate scoring from another website. So Volkov would score from McDonough at 11:42. So keep in mind that was 4 goals in a row for Florida, and then Tampa scores to make it 4-2. So it's like, all right, so Tampa's still in this. Nope. Barkov, less than a minute later, he scores from Verhaeghe and Strollman at 12:36. And then Tampa went, oh yeah? You sure? And they tried to answer, and then they did. It's marooned from Smith at 15 minutes and 50 seconds. The goal scoring must have been changed on that one because it shows Maroon scored from Maroon. He's good. He didn't get 2 points on the same goal. And then Johnson scores from Joseph and Sergachev at 16:38. So, pretty good period there for both teams. And we come out of the second period with it 5-4 in favor of Florida. And then we'll get to the shots at the end of this because that's where things are a little bit unnerving if you're a Tampa fan. Third period, Strollman scores in the first minute from Huberdeau and Gudas at 59 seconds. And that's about where you learn it doesn't matter how many McElhinney allows. They're giving Vasilevsky the night off, his first night off of the year. Smith then had a fight with Verhaeghe. So Verhaeghe, a former Tampa Bay Lightning, he ends up in a fight. Power play then for the Panthers. They don't score on it. Tampa Bay gets power play as well. Their power play had been clicking pretty well. Did not have any goals tonight. Then they pull the goalie with 2 minutes left and nothing happening. Florida wins this one 6-4, goes to 9-2-2. Tampa drops to 10-3-1. Florida's won 2 out of 3 against Tampa. The shots were 10-6 for Florida in the first. Then they were 14-7 Tampa in the second. So let's take a look at this. There are 7 shots in the second period by Florida. 4 of them go in the net. 4 of them. It's got to be frustrating for the defense. It's got to be frustrating for the players to know, all right, we can't allow them. And then in the third period, Tampa actually outshoots them 11-4. And of those 4 shots, 1 of them goes in the net. So there's 11 shots for Florida in the last 2 periods, and 5 of those pucks go in the net. Final shots, 31-21 for Tampa. Florida goes 0 for 3. Tampa 0 for 4. Drieger saves 27 out of 31. And McElhinney saves 15 out of 21. So, rough night for McElhinney and for Tampa. And, for Florida, meanwhile, things look pretty darn good. If Florida can keep racking up wins against Tampa, that gives them an excellent chance of ending up in the postseason and maybe being able to do something when they get there. That being said, I need to change boards. All right, Detroit continues to be far more entertaining to watch than they have any right to be. Detroit also continues to show a lot of fight. And they've been pretty good. They don't have that finisher, but Detroit looked pretty good today. So it's Subban versus Greiss. Early chances actually favored the Wings. And it was 3-0 for the Wings in shots at 4 minutes. But the first shot ends up going in their net because that's kind of how these things work sometimes. Janmark scores from Soderberg and Zadorov at 4 minutes and 19 seconds. Matthias Janmark, who was drafted by the Detroit Red Wings. The second Hawks shot was at 8 minutes. So, yeah, Detroit really wasn't allowing anything, but that one goal had gone in. Chicago gets a power play. It does not succeed. The Wings then pressure. They drew a power play of their own. It did not succeed. Neither power play managed to hit the net tonight. But Kubalik, who's been having some issues getting the goals at the same rate he did last year, started waking up tonight. He scores from Hagel at 16:09. That makes it 2-0. But last minute, 14 seconds left of the first period, Nemesnikov with a nice goal from Nemeth at 19:46. This is that fight back we've been seeing from Detroit. And I know that the win totals aren't where you might want them to be if you're a Detroit fan. But don't give up on this team, at least in terms of watching and see how they do, because they're a lot of fun to watch. Second period, the Wings actually pressed early. 7 minutes into the period, the shots were 4-1 in Detroit's favor. So again, good, fast start to the period. And then it started changing. The goaltending for Chicago, once again, was very good tonight. And I think Subban showed that he's a solid goaltender. Shots evened up. Grace was making some stops. The Hawks get a power play. They end up with another power play late on one of those face-off violations. I don't like those penalties, but they happen. I get it. It's just it's a rule that I would definitely, if I'd been in charge, not. I'm not. I never will be, but I don't know that I like the face-off violation penalty. It just doesn't. I don't like it. Third period, there's a power play for the Red Wings. Does not connect, as I've been saying. And then Christian Juice gets his first of the season from Nielsen and Ernie at 5:49. And yeah, I mean, that tied it up, and it was a very good third period for the Red Wings. They played very, very well. They controlled Chicago, a team that had an explosive offense coming into this game, and they had it under control. Close call for Janmark. Mantha then had a break shortly after that. That was a near miss. Late chances for the Wings, and this is the 5th game in a row where Detroit has outshot their opposition. So if you're looking for positives as a Wings fan, there are positives to be had. And I thought Zadina played a decent game, though he doesn't get on the board. Third period, actually Zadina, there was a 3-on-1 and he mishandled it in overtime. But those are the learning moments that you kind of pick yourself up from, and maybe you figure it out the next time. Pius Suter then ends up hitting the post, but not long after, at 4:43 with 17 seconds before the shootout. I thought it was going to a shootout. Kubalik scores the winner from Suter and Bowden, and that makes it a 3-2 win for the Hawks, who go to 8-5-4, and Detroit drops to 4-10-3. And yeah, it was a 2-on-1. Nice 2-on-1, and that won it. The shots were 13-6 Detroit in the first, 11-6 Chicago in the second, 9-3 Detroit in the third, and then in the overtime, Chicago just took over. They outshot them 4-1. Final shots 29-24 for Detroit. Chicago 0-for-3 on the power play. Detroit 0-for-2. Subban saves 27 out of 29. Looked good. And Grace 21 saves on 24 shots. And it's a long year if you're a Detroit fan, but again, there are positives there. You have to search for them. Next up, Winnipeg. So Winnipeg and Edmonton played a game that did not feature defense. There wasn't defense at all. So yeah, defense optional game between the Oilers and the Jets tonight. You'll notice not a lot of notes because early on I went, yeah, this is not a game of notes. This is a game of goals. This is a game of momentum. This is a game in the North. This is how the North rolls tonight. And same score, just didn't need extra time. So the Oilers wearing their thirds again. I wonder why they're not wearing their regular home jerseys more often. I genuinely am concerned that are they going to make the thirds like the regular jersey next year? Are they even thinking about it? Because they seem to wear them a lot. Anyways, we get a power play for the Jets, and they score on it. It's Scheifele scoring from Wheeler and Pionk at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Mark Scheifele is so reliable offensively. He's now on I think it's 8-game point streak now with this one tonight. 7 or 8. Either way, he scores a lot of points. Nurse then had a fight with Lowry. And after that, Chason would score from Shore and Bouchard at 11:03. So Chason has been waiting a long time for goals, even cleared waivers, and now the goals are showing up. Kyle Connor then scores at 12 minutes and 50 seconds. So this was tied for about a minute and a half. And then late in the period, the Jets get a power play. So it's 2-1 after a period in favor of Winnipeg. Second period, all of the goals happen. A lot of goals happen in the second period. Early chance for McDavid, and then it goes back the other way. Scheifele passes it to Appleton. He puts it in the net at 49 seconds. So yeah, McDavid with the chance. It goes the other way, and Appleton scores. And then at 2:31, why not make it 4-1? Ehlers scores his 10th of the season from Connor and Stastny at 2:31, and that's where Koskinen gets the tap, and he's going in, and Mike Smith's coming out. So Smith, who had a shutout and looked great, tonight was not a shutout night for him. And so we're back to having that conversation with Edmonton. Just takes a game, right? In the North, it does not take long before fans go, should we be concerned? It's happened in Montreal, now with Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, all of them, fans have had reasons to be concerned. Vancouver and Ottawa have had reasons to give up along the way. So yeah, what is defense? This is pond hockey. It's just my note. What is defense? This is pond hockey. There was no defensive structure. Heavy press by the Oilers at 7 minutes. The pressure drew a power play. They score on it. It's Nugent-Hopkins scoring from McDavid and Barrie at 9 minutes and 12 seconds. Boy, is Tyson Barrie starting to pick up points, because he gets another one at 12:57, a secondary assist on a goal by Yamamoto from Nurse and Barrie at 12:57. So, yeah, that made it a 4-3 game, and then it goes the other way. Less than a minute and a half later, Perreault scores from Pionk and Lowry at 14:15. The Oilers then get a power play. They don't score on it, but then Chiasson scores the second of the game from Ennis and Bouchard. So Bouchard with a multi-point game at 17:39. And the Oilers had momentum at this point. And some guy named McDavid, who was all over the ice, doing everything he could to try to tie it up. So you go to the third period with the score 5-4. Just, it's insane, the scoring tonight. These are like first week of October numbers kind of thing. Like, this shouldn't be a month into the season. We shouldn't be seeing the scoring going up. Nugent-Hopkins scores from Puljujarvi and McDavid at 2:55 to tie it at 5. And this is where I'll point out the Jets' defense and their defensive coverage was really poor. The Oilers were just teeing off. So this was just to set it up and tee it off. These were, there was a chance for Nurse where he had a lot of time to think about where he was putting it and wind up and fire it. And there wasn't any pressure by the Jets. They weren't. The defense was terrible by Winnipeg tonight. And they were very fortunate that Connor Hellebuyck didn't at one point just throw his arms in the air and say, I don't want to do this anymore, because it had to be frustrating at some point. Blake Wheeler would help with that frustration, though, as he scores from Morrissey and Scheifele at 6:22 to put the Jets up 6-5. So, the one thing that also was happening in this game, that's happened in other games I've been talking about, is Jets are getting the stops. The Oilers weren't. And so while the score is 6-5 and it's close, when the Oilers needed that big stop, it wasn't happening. Lewis had a chance that was stopped, and then the goaltender gets pulled with a minute and 50 seconds left, and there was a timeout with a minute and 34 seconds left. But the Oilers were not able to tie it because Hellebuyck was the superior goaltender. The shots in this one were 14-8, Edmonton in the first, 22-9, Edmonton in the second. So again, the Jets get 3 goals in the second period on 9 shots. And then in the third period, the shots are 9-7. So the final shots are 45-24. A quarter of the shots by the Winnipeg Jets ended up in the back of the net. The shots heavily favored Edmonton. Not only that, they were out hitting Winnipeg by about 2-1 as well. So this was a game that, if you look at it on the stat sheets, the Oilers dominated everywhere except the final score. And when you look at the goalie stats, right? So both teams went 1 for 2 on the power play. Hellebuyck saved 40 out of 45. Mike Smith saved 7 out of 11, and then Koskinen saved 11 out of 13. And that's your difference maker. That's the huge difference maker for the Oilers. And it'll be interesting to see. Again, these games between northern teams end up being kind of pond hockey. I mean, it's enjoyable to watch as fans, but it has to be so frustrating for the coaches. Both coaches have to look at this game and say, wow, we don't like that. So, yeah, we'll see how long that goes for. Vancouver and Calgary. So, Calgary's now 4-1 against Vancouver. Vancouver did something they don't normally do. Normally, they allow the first goal and then just crap out. Tonight, they decided to score first and then save the crapping out for later. Bold strategy. So for the Flames, they move up, and keep in mind that if we go by winning percentage, that's where things are going to get really interesting. So if we end up going by winning percentage at the end of the year, these kinds of numbers are going to get interesting. Because they're technically 2 games above 500, and they've got less points than Edmonton, but Edmonton's only a game above 500, and they've played more games. So, you see. Vancouver, it's not even don't worry about it. So Pearson scores early from Hughes and Myers at 3:52. That was their first shot of the game. And they're 7-1 when they scored first coming into tonight. 7-1-1 now. And 0-10 when they allow the first goal. So at least maybe they get to overtime because they didn't allow the first goal. The shots were 2-1 Flames at 7 minutes. Then they took a shot away from the Flames. So technically they were 1-1 at 7 minutes. So this looked like it was going to be less of a scory game than the other 2 in the North. Power play for the Canucks ends up with 2 shots. The Flames killed it off. The Canucks then got a 54-second 5-on-3. During the 5-on-3, Bo Horvat breaks out of a mini slump for him from Besser and Miller at 14:44. So that made it 2-0 Vancouver. Then Lucic scores from Anderson and Mackey at 1935 during a delayed penalty, and while Jake Virtanen is just... I don't know what Jake's thinking on that play. They showed it on the replay a few times. That goal's on Jake Virtanen. That's how that works. That's a Jake Virtanen at fault goal. So we go to the second period, and after a period that Calgary was down 2-0, it becomes 2-1, and it feels like that goal's really important in the last minute. The Flames get a power play early in the second. Shots were 6-3 for the Flames at 6 minutes. Pearson had a shot that went wide. Things started getting scrummy, and it felt like, hey, it's another slow start by the Flames, and now they're getting better, because this is what they do. Lindholm would score from Anderson at 10 minutes and 40 seconds. There was some sandpaper from Lindholm, who took that elbow from Edler that he didn't like in the last game. So he was showing some sandpaper today. Markstrom denied Ulevy. The Flames had a 3-on-1 that missed high, but then Dylan Dubé would get a goal at 15:52. That made it 3-2 in favor of the Flames. And it was, it was one of those things. It was like, well, they had a lead. It's important. They had a lead. The Flames get a power play, and this was just a full Canucks meltdown at that stage. 56 seconds then of a 4-on-4 with 27.3 seconds left in the second. So that means in the third period there'll be an early power play for the Canucks. And it fizzled out. Markstrom looked settled in that third period. There was no impatience in his game whatsoever. Virtanen had a chance that was stopped that brought a smile to Markstrom's face. I think Markstrom's really enjoyed playing against his former teammates, and who wouldn't? Honestly, who wouldn't? Höglander, another great game for Höglander. He doesn't get on the board for a goal, but he always draws a lot of conversation from Canuck fans during any game, and from the media as well. He is spectacular. There's a spectacular play every game. The Canucks power play, and I put if no bonehead. There's nothing boneheaded, because they were getting a power play, and then there was a scrum going on. There was some punches being thrown. I'm like, come on, guys. Come on. What are you doing? Just back off. Don't even this up. They didn't end up with a power play, which kind of surprised me, to be honest. And then, no, it had one shot, and they actually were 1 for 6 tonight. I looked at another stat that showed them as 2 for 6 that counted, I think as the Pearson one that counted as a power play goal. Yeah. Gaudreau had a break. Demko made the save on that break. The Flames pressed. They end up getting a power play. The Canucks would pull the goalie. So when you're shorthanded and you pull the goalie, it's 5-on-5. They score 5-on-5, but technically it's a shorthanded goal. It's Besser. It's his first shorthanded goal ever. It's not technically a shorthanded goal, but maybe we should put him out shorthanded. Be nice to get some shorthanded goals here and there. Myers and Pettersson with the assists at 19:29. So Pettersson does get on the board and get an assist tonight. And that forces overtime. But remember, it was a power play. So the Flames start the overtime on the power play. It's a 4-on-3 now. And the first shot goes in. Gaudreau from Monahan and Lindholm at 23 seconds. So Quinn Hughes takes the walk of shame after that one. That's your power play marker. And the Flames win at 4-3 in overtime. Vancouver drops to 7-11-1. Calgary goes to 8-6-1. The shots in this one, 8-7 Calgary in the first, 12-10 Calgary in the second. Vancouver outshot them 16-6 in the overtime. And then there's just the one shot by Calgary in overtime. Final shots, 33-27 in favor of Vancouver. Calgary 1 for 4 on the power play. Vancouver 1 for 6. Markstrom 30 saves on 33 shots. And Demko 23 saves on 27 shots. So again, Markstrom shows if your team's outshot, it's okay, you got Jacob Markstrom. Goal on the first shot, it's fine, it's Jacob Markstrom. He's letting the team feel good about themselves, and then he'll pull the rug out from under him. Because he's Jacob Markstrom. It's what he does. So, yeah, Jacob Markstrom rule. All right, next up, last up, Anaheim and San Jose. So this did not go to a shootout. This did not go to overtime. And I was pleasantly surprised that this one got done in 60 minutes. Kudos to California. And kudos to the Sharks on this too. This feels like it was important because coming into this game, they've only got one win in regulation. That's it. The whole season they've got one. And so for San Jose tonight, this felt important. And for the Ducks, this is an opportunity missed. Because 1 minute, at 50 seconds, the first minute of the period, the first shot goes in. Steal from Silverberg. It was unassisted for the longest time, and then they threw a Silverberg assist on there. So, but yeah, first shot of the game by Anaheim, and it goes in. So you're thinking, okay, it's Martin Jones. You got a shot. You got a goal. maybe Jones is in for a rough night, right? Henrique then almost made it 2-0 shortly after that. So the Ducks are sharp really early in this. The Sharks, keep in mind their defense without Erik Karlsson, their defense without Šimek as well, so they were shorthanded into this. Milosh had a good game. Milosh honestly stepped up tonight, and that was impressive. The shots were 4-0 for the Ducks at 4 minutes, and then the Sharks started coming back. They started getting their legs under them, and they started playing well. And then so they evened up the shots by the time we get to the 8-minute mark. Power play then for the Sharks. Gibson denied Couture, but didn't deny Leonard his first NHL goal. So Leonard gets that from Ferraro and Meyer at 9:43, and Jones really had recovered. So after that first goal in the first minute, Jones plays very, very well the rest of the period. Anaheim had a ton of opportunities and just could not get it in the net. Second period, Gibson stopped a Ferraro chance. The physicality starts ramping up, which I think kind of favors San Jose a little bit. I think they play better when they're angry. And LeBanc would get a goal from Kane and Couture at 4:48 that he banked in. LeBanc banked the goal in off Gibson's arm. He was behind the net, or at least behind the goal line, and banked it in off Gibson. Smart play. And so that made it 2-1. And that started with a turnover by the Ducks. The turnovers were a problem tonight. The Sharks had some momentum. They also had the lead. Then there was a too many men on the ice call that could have been called on the Sharks. What was interesting was it went past their bench. The extra guy was Nieto. Nieto plays the puck. They'll let you get away with having that sixth guy on the ice if the extra guy doesn't play it. And in this case, the extra guy did. And the announcer's kind of surprised it didn't get called. But it didn't. The Ducks press at 11 minutes, and sure enough, it goes the other way. And then Getzlaf, from beside his own net, decides to pass it right to Couture. I didn't see what he was looking at, but it was a perfect pass to Couture, and Couture just put it in the net. So I gave him the assist on that at 11 minutes and 15 seconds. So the Ducks, who had been pressing and close to it, and yeah, Getzlaf with a move that I'm sure he'd want that pass back, and that made it 3-1 in favor of the Sharks. And keep in mind, the Ducks really do struggle with scoring goals. That's a tough call for them. Turnovers were a major problem for them. Then in the third period, early on, they get a break. Comtois gets a goal from Raquel and Fowler at 2 minutes, but it banked in off of Ferraro's stick. So this is one of those ones, again, that it wasn't the cleanest goal, but you don't need that clean of a goal. You just need the goal. And so the Ducks, they get that one, and it makes it 3-2, right? Then the Sharks hit a crossbar. The Ducks get a power play, so you're like, okay, they missed on. They hit the crossbar. It's a 1-goal lead. The Ducks get a power play. Ducks power play is not going to score. The Ducks get a post, and then Jones made some saves after that post for the Ducks. Goaltender gets pulled with 2 minutes left, and then the Ducks were guilty of an icing, which means Gibson has to go back in the net before they can get him back out. He does get back out with 1:10 left, but they couldn't get it right. The Sharks then iced it. There was some talk about whether or not Aikens, is he going to call the timeout? Is he not? He didn't. He didn't call a timeout. Aikens just decided to let them play against the tired Sharks, which is a good strategy. It is. When they ice it, you can't change lines, right? But yeah, they just couldn't tie it. So your final score is 3-2. The Sharks go to 6-7-1. The Ducks drop to 6-7-3. That's problematic. And for the Sharks, they really did need to win one at home. They did. Now they go on the road for 2 more, and then they come home for a while. The Ducks outshot San Jose 15-10 in the first. San Jose outshoots them 13-4 in the second. Anaheim outshoots them 9-6 in the third. Final shots 29-28 in favor of San Jose. Power plays, Anaheim 0 for 1, San Jose 1 for 2. Gibson saved 26 out of 29. He was good. Jones was better. Jones saved 26 out of 28 and gets himself the victory. So there you go. You guys are all caught up on what happened tonight, including the insanity with Toronto. There seems to be an insane Toronto game once a year. Although the season's still young, there could be more. And, yeah, so apparently a 4-goal lead may not be safe in Toronto. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts regarding that or any of the other games in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing right through. You just happened upon this video. And, hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for your support. I will talk to you again soon.